In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a Texas-style brisket in an air fryer that actually tastes like it came off an offset smoker at a Texas barbecue joint. Why would I do this? Well, if you have an offset smoker, this might be a way to get more fat cap rendering before you put it on the smoker or after you put it on the smoker. And if you don't own a smoker, it's a way to make a pretty convincing Texas-style brisket in an air fryer. For me personally, I just want to see if it'll work. Spoiler alert, it does. First, get yourself a brisket and trim it down to size. We're using the fattier point section of the brisket for this recipe, so buy that separately if you can. Otherwise, just buy a full packer like this one and cut the flat off of it. I measured the diameter of my air fryer basket beforehand and found it was around 7 inches, so I'm slicing the point into roughly a 7 by 7 inch square. Then I'm trimming down the fat cap until it's around 1/4 inch thick. If you don't trim it down enough, then the fat cap won't fully render and you'll end up with some very hard, opaque white fat, which is not very tasty. Next, I'm mixing 3 tablespoons of Prague powder number 1 into 1 gallon or 16 cups of water. I'll link that in the description section below. If you want to, you can also use Morton's Tender Quick, which has less nitrites in it, so you'll need to use about 6 tablespoons of that. Then I'm placing the brisket in the brine for exactly 1 hour. During smoking on a smoker, the smoke reacts with myoglobin in the meat to produce the characteristic smoke ring or pink ring that we see in barbecue. We're not using a smoker, so we have to fake that chemical reaction by using nitrites in stuff like Prague powder number 1 or Morton's Tender Quick or a different kind of curing salt that has nitrites in it. Those nitrites are going to interact with the myoglobin in the meat the same way that smoke interacts with meat to produce that smoke ring. So we can call this a fake smoke ring, but really it's the same chemical reaction. We're just doing it in a different way. An hour later, I'm removing the brisket from the brine and I'm soaking it in water for a few minutes to remove the excess curing salt. Then I pat the brisket dry with paper towel and apply some liquid smoke. I'm using Wright's liquid smoke and I'll include the Amazon link to it or a similar liquid smoke product in the description below. This is going to provide the smoke flavor because obviously we're not smoking it, so we need to add something that imitates smoke flavor. After it's heavily coated all over in liquid smoke, I'm breaking out the Smoke Trails BBQ brisket rub. This is my own personal brisket rub and it is amazing. I'll link it below in the description section to pick some up. I'm going to put half a cup of that in a container, then I'm breaking out some food grade charcoal powder. This is going to provide the dark Texas style bark that we're looking for on a brisket. Mix half a teaspoon, so very, very little charcoal powder with the half a cup of brisket rub, and then put it in a shaker bottle to make it easier to coat the brisket. Next, sprinkle the brisket all over with the rub using all of the half cup of rub until it's heavily coated, and it should look like something like this after it's rubbed nice and dark. There may be some lighter spots that you can see through the rub, but don't worry about that. It will darken up in the air fryer. Next step, place the brisket in a preheated air fryer and set it to roast at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. Do not put it on air fry mode at 350 to 375 degrees plus. That is going to burn your brisket. The goal is low and slow here, so go at 275 ideally. Now we're going to let the brisket cook away in the air fryer for around 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, we'll take out the air fryer basket, spritz the brisket with water, then flip it over and spritz the bottom with water as well. The goal here is to cook the brisket more evenly and prevent the edges from drying and crisping up too much. Then put it back in the air fryer and keep cooking. Another 30 minutes later, I'm doing the same thing, spritzing and flipping, and I also removed this little bottom insert thing because I don't think it really did anything and it was just making it a little bit too much cramped in the air fryer basket. Keep on spritzing and flipping every 30 minutes for around 3 hours total until the top of the fat cap of the brisket is somewhat squishy and crispy like bacon, and the internal temperature is around 155 to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The fat cap normally takes 8 to 10 hours in a smoker to crisp up like this, but in an air fryer, this is kind of what the air fryer does. It renders the heck out of things. So it's not going to take very long for that fat cap to render. This brisket's around 155 degrees internal to 165 degrees. So I'm placing it on some aluminum foil and pouring the juices from the air fryer basket all over it. Then I'm foiling it tightly and I'm putting it back in the air fryer at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. Now keep cooking the brisket in the air fryer for around 2 to 3 hours or until the brisket hits 203 degrees plus internal. It probes super tender like butter, and most importantly, you should be able to put some cotton gloves on, put some nitrile gloves over top of them, and you should be able to poke your fingers through the muscle fibers in the bottom of the brisket quite easily. That's how you know it's done. After it's done, just wrap it back up in the foil and leave it on the counter for an hour or two to rest down to around 140 degrees internal before you slice it. To slice it, technically you want to go against the grain of the point, so you would cut perpendicular to the original slice you made to separate the point and the flat. But in this case, I'm just slicing along the longer edge so the slices look good and they're not too short. Then I slathered the slices in brisket juices from the foil packet, and I sliced some ribs and sausage, which I also cooked in the air fryer because why not? I ended up making a little air fryer barbecue platter here, which you might as well do if you're going through all the effort to do this. But speaking of effort, this brisket cook was actually pretty short at 6 to 7 hours total, including the brining and rest time, which is really impressive because when I'm doing a traditional style brisket on my offset smoker, it could be upwards of 14 hours to cook that brisket. But the real question is, does this brisket look and feel and taste like an authentic Texas style brisket? We're gonna find that out. All right, the moment of truth. Can you make barbecue in an air fryer? Yes, you can. As you can see, I have made barbecue in an air fryer, but I think the real question in this video is, does it taste good? And that's what we're gonna find out right now. I'm gonna start out with just some sausage here. And I mean, this is pretty easy, guys. Everyone's made sausage in an air fryer, so pretty low stakes, but pretty good. Okay, let's try a rib here. So we've got some decent bark on it, and if I really wanted to amp these up, I might throw them back in the air fryer after saucing them. It tacks up the sauce a little bit, just makes them a little bit better. But let's see how these taste. Really good, just as good as any rib that I'd cook on my offset smokers or a pellet grill or some other type of smoker. The only difference is I can't really taste any smoke flavor. I don't think that slathering it in that liquid smoke really did anything. If I really wanted to add some smoke flavor, I think what I'd do is add it to the actual sauce itself, and that would probably shine through. So keep that in mind if you're making a sauce or getting a store-bought sauce. Maybe put a little bit of liquid smoke in there so it actually shines through. Good rib though. All right, now for the real test. Let's see how this brisket tastes. And if you really wanted to, you could take this and chunk it up into burnt ends. Let's take one of these pieces. Now, like I said before, I didn't really slice this the right way, but I wanted to make longer slices, and it's fine. I think if I pull this apart, it pulls apart easily anyway. We're not too worried about that. So nice smoke ring. We've got some excellent fat cap rendering. That is what we look for in good brisket. I could not tell that this did not get smoked. The only thing that might give it away is that it doesn't smell very smoky, but with the fat cap rendering, the smoke ring, how tender it is, I think most people would have a really hard time distinguishing this from an actual brisket that was smoked on an offset smoker. Let's taste it. Really good, amazing brisket, just as good as my briskets that come off my offset smoker. Again, though, the difference is I can't taste a lot of smoke flavor, so I don't know how you'd add more smoke flavor to this. Maybe slather it with a little bit more liquid smoke. Maybe you could inject it with liquid smoke. I'm not quite sure, but it doesn't really come through to me. And maybe that's because I'm kind of smoke blind from smoking briskets every day on my offsets and other smokers, but I can't really taste any smoke flavor. Other than that, appearance-wise, taste-wise, apart from the lack of smoke flavor, everything is pretty much identical to a brisket that I would smoke on an offset smoker, which is very impressive because we frickin' cooked it in an air fryer. Like, can you believe that? Can you believe that we got a brisket that looks like this? It's starting to oxidize a little bit and dry out, but look at that. It's beautiful. Look at the bark. Like, you pull that out at a party and people will be like, where's the smoker? What's going on here? And you'll be like, yeah, I just smoked it in my trusty air fryer. I'm gonna take another bite of this. Really good. Now, if you really wanted to slice this brisket the right way, you'd start from this side. You'd cut off this chunk of fat. That's all just fat there. And then you would chunk this off. This would be your burnt ends here. So you chunk that into burnt ends. And like, that's a nice looking burnt end. Look at that. It's beautiful. It's got the smoke ring and everything, the fake smoke ring. And then you'd start making your slices like this. But as you can see really quickly here, they're gonna be really super small. Here you go. Now you can really see it. Look in the other camera here. You can really see it. There's some unrendered fat here, but look at this. Look at this rendered fat. That air fryer really did a good job. You can just squish it right apart. And this is what I say when brisket fat cap is perfectly rendered. It's slurpable. It has slurpable texture and it's ooey and gooey and brown. It's good. It's good. And I'm surprised. Oh, I got a little hint of smoke flavor there. Does taste artificial though. Good brisket though. Look at that. Serve that up at a party. No one's gonna complain about that. All right, the answer to the real question now after I did the taste test. Can you smoke good barbecue in an air fryer? I mean, you can smoke barbecue that comes pretty close to something you could cook on an actual offset smoker or other type of smoker. You're just gonna be lacking in the smoke department. As long as you do all the right things and follow the steps that I showed in this video, you're gonna have something that looks and tastes like real smoked barbecue, but it's not gonna have that smoke flavor. For that, you're gonna need to get a smoker, and I highly suggest you do if you don't have one already. Thanks for watching. If you have any other ideas for experiments you want to see on the show, let me know in the comments section below. And also let me know in the comments, would you try this? Would you cook barbecue in an air fryer? Let me know, and until next time, happy smoking.